Welcome back to Black News Tonight. The incredible Gabourey Sidibe is a star of film and television whose performances have been simply magical. Well, she's now taken on her first role in an audio drama. It's a brand new fiction podcast called If I Go Missing, The Witches Did It. That's right, it combines horror, suspense, satire, and so much more. It's a 9-episode series created by Realm Media, and the podcast premieres today, September 23rd. It's my honor to welcome the star of If I Go Missing, The Witches Did It, Academy Award winner, Gabourey Sidibe. It's so great to have you on the show. Welcome to Black News Tonight. It's your first time, but it won't be your last time. Talk to me about this podcast.
It's my first time. Thanks for having me. Well, the podcast is a psychological thriller. It's also really, really, really funny. And it touches on, even though it's funny, it sort of touches on really prevalent topics like race and class and activism and how, the idea that maybe I'm not Black enough. How Black is Black. All of those sorts of themes play within the thriller and the suspense and the comedy.
Wow. You have done so many awesome things, whether it's Empire, whether it's Precious. I mean, you've been everywhere doing everything. Why a podcast now? Why that genre?
Well, for one, we're still in a pandemic, so I'm not interested in leaving the house and being on a set with a bunch of people. So I got really into, the pandemic's still happening, but I got really into voice acting. Like, I did a few cartoon shows, and I listened to a lot of podcasts, and so it just seemed like a natural thing to say yes to.
All right, so you said yes to podcasting, and then you said yes to an amazing project. And without giving too much away, what can you tell us about your character, Jenna Clayton, and the journey that she's on?
Ooh. So Jenna is an interesting character. She's very, very complex, and you'll get to see that while listening. But for the most part, what I can tell you is that she happens upon a coven of witches. And she does not follow street code. She decides to snitch. And that's when they have to go after her. And so we get to see her make all of the wrong decisions and maybe some right decisions and maybe learn to stay out of witch business.
Hey, look, I understand. You got to have a code, even witches. Look, so your character, Jenna, goes missing. And then another character named Elise, who is a white woman, has... let's say a savior complex. She searches to find you. I feel like there's a message there that the writer P. Wilson was trying to get across through this satire. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I have to say, yes, the other person in the podcast, she definitely has a white savior complex, and she thinks she is woke, and she's actually the opposite. Like, how some people, they go so far against racism that they turn right back around and end up being racist. So that's who that character
Yes.
is, and it's actually really hilarious, sort of playing off of this woman who thinks that she is the most righteous, most woke person in the entire world, and that she's the only one that cares about this Black woman, up against an actual Black woman. So.
Right. I know lots of them. You know what I mean? Ain't no witches involved, but I know lots of white folk that move that way. Now, you've been in horror before. You played a powerful witch in American Horror Story, Coven. Why is it important to have leading Black characters in genres like horror and in fantasy? I mean, it's such an interesting term, but why is it important?
Well, because for so long we weren't there. Like, it's always been... For as long as I can remember, Black people always die first in horror films. We don't make it out. And it's like, where do we make it? And so it's really important to take on these stories and so that we can survive them. And also, there are a lot of, I remember there was some conversation about how, like, Black people don't mess with witches, and and it's like, why can't we? Why shouldn't we? Is that a thing that's going to snatch your Black card? What does that even mean? It's all fantasy. This is all fiction, and it's entertainment. And we need to take as much space up as we possibly can in all genres of entertainment.
Some fans know, the real true ones like me know that you are half Senegalese and that you're very proud of your West African heritage. Talk to me a little bit about that and the importance of making those connections. You know, one of the things we do in the show is we try to talk about the entire diaspora and forge stronger bonds of solidarity across the African diaspora. How important is it for Africans on the continent to connect with Black Americans here?
I think it's very important. We are so separated. We're so disconnected, but we're from Africa. We are the same. African Americans were essentially stolen away from not just the land of Africa, but from the people of Africa. We're stolen away from ourselves. And so I am really connected to my Senegalese roots. I'm really, really proud of my Senegalese roots because I know how rare, well, it used to be rare to look in the mirror and not know where your nose comes from, you know, because as far back as you can, you know, recall kind of in American history, like before we just go back to slavery, which isn't true. We were we were humans, we were people, we were whole societies before slavery. Slavery interrupted us. We're all Africans and slavery interrupted us. And so it's really, really, really important to connect to our roots for African Americans and also for Africans to extend their hands and their reach over to African Americans and, you know, and try to educate. Because I remember growing up you know, the Black kids that I was in class with always thought that I was weird and there was something wrong with me because I had an African name, because I was too African. And it was really hard to explain to little Black kids that I'm not weird. You and I are actually the same.
Absolutely. Those bridges, those connections are important. One of the ways that we make those connections is through art. And you have consistently produced such extraordinary, groundbreaking, path-breaking art. And this is another mode, another genre, but it's still path-breaking and brilliant. If I Go Missing, The Witches Did It is a masterpiece, and it premieres today, September 23rd. Again, it's created by Realm Media. It's available wherever you get your podcast. Madam Sidibe, thank you so much for joining me on Black News tonight, and you better come back too.